so beautiful. And so if you're not celebrating another lovely person in your life today, make sure that you do something to be kind to yourself. Okay? Okay. Alright, those are all my affirmations. Valentine's Day is weird, so let's talk about books. I've got 6 books about love. Like, not all books about love, but love stories that I enjoy. The one on the top of my stack is, should I start with it? I have 3 romance novels and 3 like literary fiction, and the one on the top of my stack is, we'll just start with it. It's definitely the most contentious. Like, I don't know, the rest of them are actually like love stories, and this one is not. This book is called The Department of Speculation. Department of Speculation by Jenny Awful. Now if you've read this book, you know this is a story about a relationship ending. So I don't this is for my girlies and folks in general who are feeling a little disillusioned today. But basically this is about a marriage falling apart, I think because of one of the partner's infidelity. It's totally gripping. Real banger of a book for me to start with. I read this in a day, like in a single sitting. I sat down and read the entire book. It has that kind of like voyeuristic feeling while reading it that just makes you like want to keep reading. It's a bit like a car crush, you know, like it has that kind of effect. This book is like so all-encompassing. Trends versus time and like other literary works. And it's like very suspenseful, and yet there are like so many really beautiful meditations on like partnership and on love and like on the way that we kind of share our lives with a partner, and then also what happens when that ends, because that grief is extreme and brutal. Yeah, so this isn't a story about being in love, but it kind of is, you know? I can't imagine writing this book not having experienced something similar. So I also don't know like how kind of, it's a novel obviously, but it's I don't know how autobiographical it is. So also it's called Department of Speculation because when the couple was like in love and they were young, they called the Department of Speculation. It was like a code name for like all of the uncertainties and joys that were to come in their relationship, which makes the title just all the darker. Anyway, that's my first pick for you. The next book is a book that I read this year. I've talked about it, but specifically the love story part of this book is my absolute favorite. The book is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is a love story between 2 young people in Chicago who both struggle with mental illness and are just trying to figure each other out. It's fantastic. As I said, I think the last time that I talked about it, I think it's so saucy in the way that they are just trying to figure each other out, in the way that they are so desperate to understand one another's brains and to experience like each other's genius. worst possible thing, personally. The other day, this guy, who I have a big crush on, told me that I was so smart, and then later he told me I was a genius, and I almost died. Anyway, it's fine. It's fine. I'm a Gemini Venus. Anyway, this book is so beautiful. It also, like, has to do with time travel a little bit. And, what I enjoyed about it as well was it represented, mental health and mental illness, especially bipolar, in the way that I believe that they actually are, in the way that it is simultaneously a gigantic part of your personhood, and also, like, just the way one goes about the world, right? Like, if you have any kind of brain thing, for lack of a better word, right now I'm thinking of, like, neurodiversity or mental illness, be that anxiety or depression or bipolar or other mental illnesses. Like, you don't know any other way of going through the world, right? Like, I've had ADHD my whole life. That is how I go through the world. And when I got diagnosed, I understood so much more about myself, and yet it also didn't change my world. My world still exists in a very similar way that it did, and I thought that this book really brilliantly illustrated the way that, you know, that functions in individual lives, you know? And the love story also, just like, this one has an excellent rhythm, a real will they or won't they pull that is kind of tantalizing. Okay, the next love story I also read this past year, suggested to me by the one, the only, the absolute Valentine, This book is Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This book is so lovely. It reminded me of the first time that I was in love. It's a story about two young Black British people, and they're artists, and they meet and they fall in love while, like, navigating the realities of their worlds. And the book feels like reading someone's diary. Like, it's so vulnerable, so eviscerating, like, so so much inside of the main character's heart and mind. It's really, really beautiful. Let's see if I can find a quote from it. I can't remember if I highlighted this book. Oh, and okay, so I just flipped open to see if I could find a quote that I underlined, and I did, and it was a quote where where the main character is talking about, name drops one of my favorite writers. My favorite writer, if you want to know, is Hanif Abdurraqib. He wrote They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. He wrote, oh my god, what are the names of his other books? I'm totally blanking on them. The Little Devil in America, In Praise of Black Performance. He wrote Go Ahead in the Rain, which is about A Tribe Called Quest. And he writes like he writes cultural criticism, kind of like music criticism. I feel that that's reducing his writing. Hanif Abdurrahman keeps writing so much, but I feel like if he were to write fiction, this would be the fiction that he wrote. And so much so that, you know, reading this book earlier in the book, before I saw that they mentioned him, I was like about to slide into his Instagram DMs to be like, hey, have you read this book? This one's so good. And then once I saw his name in here, I was like, oh, of course he's read this book. Anyway, okay, here's another underlined quote that I have. To give desire a voice is to give it a body through which to breathe and live. It is to admit and submit to something which is on the outer limits of your understanding. Okay, I'm writing one more quote just because I feel like you need to get the vibe. Neither of you dare look at one another as you hold this heavy moment in your hands. You're lightheaded and warm. You're both silent. You're both wondering what it could mean that desire could manifest in this way. So loud for such a tender touch. Okay, so this book is insanely good. Okay, now we're gonna move into romance novels. Obviously books about love, but like, these are my faves. These are my top tier guys. Okay, sorry, my leggings were driving me all crazy. So the first one, I'm actually not gonna start with this one because I'm gonna end with it because it's A plus, top tier. We'll start with this book, which I actually haven't read in a very long time, so we will recollect it together. Recollect. Why was I gonna say that? We'll recall it together. The book is One Last Stop. Do you like my nails? Do you like my little V-Day nails? It's a book by Casey McQuiston, who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue. I read this before I read Red, White, and Royal Blue, and that was an interesting choice. Mostly I just read it because it was about queer women, and I was like, well, I think I can relate to that a little bit more. Reading Red, White, and Royal Blue after this, like, kind of spoiled Red, White, and Royal Blue for me. And I hear a lot of people reading Red, White, and Royal Blue and then reading this and being like, I didn't like it. Because, okay, so here's the kind of crux of it. Is that there's an aspect of time travel in this book. Like a little bit of like mysticism time travel situation, as I believe. But like not like magic. But like just a little bit. Like a little bit of like magical realism almost, right? Like, so the main character moves to New York and she gets a job at a diner and she's like starting to get into living in New York, and then she meets this girl on the train named Jane, and they see each other on their commute on the queue every day, and they strike up a friendship and a kind of flirtationship. And but then somehow she finds out, whatever, that she's like displaced in time, that Jane actually lives in the 70s and somehow kind of got displaced in time and is now, you know, here in the 20s, 2010s, whenever the book takes place. And so it's beautiful in the way their relationship starts to bloom and grow. And then it's gutting in the sense that like Jane has to go back in time. She has to go back to her world, live in her world, and the main character, I believe her name is August, August has to stay in modern day New York City, and that like for them to each like fulfill their destinies, they have to just her regular home. Yes, it was like his summer home, and then I think she lived there year round. I'm pretty sure that's what the story was. And so it flashes back in time and forward in time. So you're seeing her in this present day, in this like perfect life that she has, and then running into Elliot, and then you start to see these flashbacks of her and Elliot growing up together and having this sweet like teen friendship that turns into a little like love. And but clearly something has happened, something has transpired that like, you know, split them apart. And you know, that oh my gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. That like split them apart and kind of you know, stopped their love story. And so as you go further in the book, you're getting closer to the event, but you don't know the event that happens that makes it so hard for her to reconnect with him and makes it feel so scary to reconnect with him. And I just think like I definitely didn't see it coming at all. Like, you know that there's some reason why they were not you know, didn't end up continuing to date or whatever, but or like continue to be like cute in a relationship together when they were young. But I honestly like I'm like usually like twists and things like that, I'm like, oh, that's what's gonna happen, like we can all see it. And this one, nope. And I was bawling. It's so good. So I would highly recommend this. It's a really fun like summer read as well. Oh, I forgot one book. Okay, one more literary fiction, and then I'll tell you my favorite romance novel. Okay, so this one is like not touted as a love story necessarily. And when I read it, I was not reading it as a love story. This book is called Under the Whispering Door. Under the Whispering H-I-S-B-E-R-I-N-G Door by TJ Klune. TJ Klune also is the author of House in the Cerulean Sea. Fantastic book as well. Fantastic queer love story as well. There you go. This book, so it takes place at this tea house called Sharon's Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. So, I'll just read you the back and then we'll talk. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect that he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind. Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at an office and a death that's spent building a home. So, as you all know, probably maybe if you've been around, like 2 of my grandpas died this year, and so it was a really heavy year for me. One of my grandpas that passed away this year, like lived with my parents, and I live quite close to my parents, and I'm quite close with them, and so, anyway, it was a very heavy year for me in terms of like death and loss and grief and all of that. And so I read this book like in the throes of my grief, and I don't know if that was the best call. I mean, it's an incredible book, but you do have to be ready to like think about death and dying, which I know like not everybody is always down, right? And in this story, there's a beautiful, beautiful love story. And I don't know that I would have like even clocked it at the time because I was so much in my process. But oh gosh, little feedback. So sorry. But yes, there's a beautiful queer love story. As with many TJ Klune books, I think he writes. I believe that TJ Klune uses he in pronouns, but I'm now questioning that. I don't actually know. I believe so though. Anyway, he writes like the weirdest falling in loves that you could ever imagine. Like, I want to fall in love, like, in a TJ Klune novel. You know, like, just with, like, the kindest, most open-hearted characters, loving so, generously. And so, yeah, the main character falls in love. It's really beautiful. Anyway, I mean, I would say the beauty in this book is well beyond that as well. But the love story in this is top tier. Oh my god, I've tapped this book up. I didn't even realize. I was really in my process. Okay, so the last book is a romance novel. This is one of my favorite romance novels that I've ever read. I had like incredibly mid expectations for it. It was also, I think, kind of like one of the first ones that I ever just really, really enjoyed. And I was really skeptical, but this is one to watch by Katie Stayman London. Kate Stayman London. And I read this probably 2 years ago at least. So this book is, okay, so it takes place on a dating show, like The Bachelor, kind of. So I'll just read you the back, because it's been a while since I read this, but it's so good and I want to tell you why. Bea Schumacher is a devastatingly stylish, plus-size fashion blogger who has amazing friends, a devoted family, legions of Instagram followers, and a massively broken heart. Like the rest of America, Bea indulges in her weekly obsession with the hit reality TV show Bean Squeeze, like The Bachelor. The fantasy dates, the kiss-off rejections, the surprising number of guys named Chad. But Bea is sick and tired of the lack of body diversity on the show, since when is being a size 0 a prerequisite for getting engaged on television? Just when Bea has sworn off dating altogether, she gets an intriguing call. Bean Squeeze wants her to be its next star, surrounded by men vying for her affections. Bea agrees on one condition. Under no circumstances will she actually fall in love. Oh, that's my eyeshadow. Whoopsie doopsie. She's in this to supercharge her career, subvert harmful beauty standards, inspire women across America, and get a free hot air balloon ride. That's it. But when the cameras start rolling, Bea realizes things are more complicated than she anticipated. She's in a whirlwind of sumptuous couture, internet culture wars, sexy suitors, and an opportunity, or 2, or 5, to find messy real-life love in the midst of a made-for-TV fairy tale. In this joyful, razor-sharp debut, Bea has to decide whether it might just be worth trusting these men and herself for a chance to live happily ever after. I'm actually really curious now if Kate Stayman London has written anything else, because this was her debut novel. Okay, first of all, if you watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, you'll love it. Second of all, if you are plus size, or like, I honestly, no, I was gonna say, if you are plus size, I think this is like a must read. I don't know. I stand by that. I'm not backing that up. But I also think that everyone should read it. I don't know. What I love about this book is this. And the thing that I did not expect to get from this book is, like, there are a lot of romance novels about plus size heroines, and I love that. It's really fantastic to see, like, bodies that aren't often represented as romantic leads in books, right? Like, it's really, I don't know. I've like talked a lot about like body inclusivity and like body diversity in my videos, and like when you don't see yourself represented as the character that the hot guy falls in love with, that's really hard. And that like goes for all range, like all types of diversity, right? Like gender, sexuality, body, much of like being plus size or being fat. Like fat phobia often like lives in the space of desirability, of the idea that like no one would think that you're sexy or attractive or desirable like in a bigger body, or at least for me, maybe I'll speak from my own experience, is like that is where that lives for me, right? And it's a really vulnerable place for me to like get into, because you know, having been kind of like fed those messages from a young age, like it's hard to unlearn that, to like eschew that, to not feel like I need to like make my body smaller, right? And this book, I did not expect it, like I did not expect it to make me reflect so deeply on my relationship to my own desirability. And it did. And like not all romance novels with a plus size heroine do that, right? Like I've read a couple others since then. Not all of them do. Like not all of them are as thoughtful as this novel right here. And I can't remember exactly, I wish I could remember in detail more of my reflections, but it really, really did make me think differently about myself and about the ways in which, you know, I think though I have been in like relationships in the past, I had seen my desirability as anomalous, as like, wow, they were like stepping out or whatever, right? And like this book made me realize like, no, it's not anomalous. Like, I don't know, it reminded me of like, you know, when a good friend, when you're like having those doubts about yourself and be like, oh, they wouldn't like me for like X reason, right? And like a good friend is like, are you crazy? Like they are flirting with you. Like don't put yourself down like that, right? Anyway, so I don't know if I did a very good job of explaining why I love this book, but I love this book. It's so good. It's also just so fun, flirty, well written, swassy, you know. So I would highly recommend reading this. Truly, anyone. Yeah, it's excellent. So those are my love stories. My love stories. You can tell that I'm a millennial, first of all, because I just did this. Listen, and then I was doing my makeup earlier, and I was like, okay, like I'm right on the cusp of Gen Z and millennial. I was born in '96, so I'm like right between them. I'm like too young to like understand a lot of like millennial stuff, right? I'm like, I don't have children. I don't like have a house, right? Like I know I don't really remember 9/11 that well, but like I'm too old to like be Gen Z, right? Like I love a pair of skinny jeans. When wide like pants and jeans started coming out of the woodwork, I was like, well, fuck me. Like I do just love a skinny jean. Yeah, I also love like a bold eyebrow and a smoky eye. Like that's what I was thinking as I was like, oh god, like I can pretend to be Gen Z all I want, but at the end of the day, like my makeup is always gonna look kind of like this, and I think that like that means when I might be just like a little bit millennial, but also it's all kind of fake, so whatever. Anyway, but I also I can't make a heart like this. Like my hands just like